Steve Nation, rise. Rise from your sleep and think about the future of your handsome single mother. Do you know what we're thinking today? We think the Harrington boy has it in him to survive the odds. Sure, there has been a lot of fear mongering that he will die, and while we might also monger some of that fear, let us remind you, where there's fear, there's hope. Alright then, today, we're talking Steve. First up, the season 4 survival. Think about it, this guy has been in life-threatening situations so many times before, probably more than anybody else on the show. Also, let us remind you that the hysteria around Steve's potential death is nothing new. We've had it since season 2 was coming out, and it makes sense to be afraid for him because his character is just the kind that shows and movies like to take off the census. But don't you think it's about time we admit that the Duffer brothers have just embraced this trope for good? You know, the one setting up a fan favorite character for death and then not killing them? The Duffers have said before that they like Steve too much to kill him off. So yeah, call it delusion, but we think our boy will survive season 5. If you're not convinced, why don't you take a look at what he lived through in season 4? We think Harrington's survival in season 4 is a pretty big hint that he won't bite the dust in the next season. How so? Well, because death knocked on his door when the Demobats were munching on his flesh, and yet he was fit as a fiddle, setting Vecna on fire in the season finale. This was the biggest death scare we've gotten so far into the show, and it had a happy ending. So now, killing him next season would be pretty anticlimactic because nobody likes to see the same thing twice, and a similar thing for the 5th time. Following up, the fans will be mad. Raise your hand if Steve Harrington is your absolute favorite character on Stranger Things. Raise your other hand if you'd riot in case the Duffers do him dirty. If your hands aren't raised, tell us, how is it having a stone for a heart? The point here is that the king of Hawkins High has stealthily, like a ninja, made his way to the very top of the Character Hall of Fame, and now it is going to require courage and a half to kill him. And we think Matt and Ross are smarter than that. You can't make a show so legendary to end it on a note that will leave a bitter taste in the audience's mouth. Are we counting on the power of our love to save his life? Yes, we are, and you should too. Up next, a death isn't all that necessary. Listen, we know that the Duffers don't kill their main characters, and yes, we understand that important deaths bring impact to a show, but hey, they've done things this way, and it has worked for them so far. Don't you think they'll stick to it for one last season? Honestly, at this point, if they change the entire vibe of the show just so that they can beat the chicken showrunners' allegations, we're afraid it will look pretty lame. Like, the show is doing alright with the main cast alive, and we certainly won't be complaining if it stays this way. And we don't know about you, but we think Steve's death in season 5 would feel very forced like. Oh, we had to kill someone and make you cry, so here, Harrington's a corpse now. Now, you could argue that Harrington going out in a very impactful scene would be good for the show, just like Eddie. And listen, Munson's our boy, and his last scene broke our hearts, but let's face it, his death was unnecessary. So yeah, it's better not to kill anybody than to kill the most obvious characters just for the heck of it. Think about it. What's the surprise factor about killing the guy whose death is the most talked about in the fan base? So, if for nothing else, we think they will let Steve see another day to not be offensively predictable. You will Matt and Ross, won't you? Pretty please? Coming up, our dingus is something of a warrior himself. The clock says it's time to sing King Steve's praises. So, that's what we're going to do. If you think Mommy Harrington will breathe his last breath in season 5, then you, dear viewer, are a doubter. Have you forgotten the beast he's bested in the past? No, seriously. He's literally the most qualified to survive the dangers of the upside down monsters and whatnot. After L, of course. We're talking about the guy who had the courage to single-handedly beat a Demogorgon with a baseball bat, even when he had no idea that another darker dimension existed, where weird cabbage-faced slimy monsters were, all while making it look easy. You're telling us this guy won't make it now that he has 3 more years of monster experience? We think not. As for injuries, we doubt anybody in Hawkins has the pain endurance as Dingus Harrington. A chilled Coca-Cola tin was all the treatment he needed after Jonathan gave him a black eye and a bruised ego in season 1. It took him only a few minutes to go right back into the upside down combat mode after Billy wiped the floor with him in season 2. He was beaten to a pulp by a Russian soldier, and yet he didn't break. So yes, we are absolutely sure he'll get his kicked really badly in season 5 as well, but we know that he will live to tell the tale. Why? Because if there's someone who's got the courage to take on Vecna and his squelching tentacles, it's Steve Harrington. He'll do it for his kids, and he'll live for his kids. Moving on, they won't do that to Dustin. So, Eddie Munson died. Can't say it was surprising, but good lord, it was gut-wrenching. Now, think about what made his death sadder. It was his friendship with the true heart. Sorry not sorry, Mike. Of the group, Dustin Henderson. Sure, we were holding back tears when Munson was attacked by those spawns of Satan, but when Dustin said, "I love you, man," that was when the waterworks started. The point we're trying to make here is that they've already given Henderson a grief plotline related to his older bestie. There are quite a few fans online who believe that Steve is not going to die because the Duffers can't repeat the same with Dusty Bun. Steve and Dustin are hands down the best duo on the show, and every time Harrington's potential death is brought up, its effect on his little bestie is what people think about the most. And now, it just won't be as impactful because we already saw what it's going to look like. Okay, now we're going to say something very dangerous, but if the Duffers are really trying to give us emotional damage, we think they'll probably go for Dusty Bun. We really hope it's not true, but the dots are connecting a little too well. To prevent what happened to Munson, Henderson could put his life on the line for his Farrah Fawcett idol, Steve. Here's why Harrington could say goodbye. We love him too much not to care about him, right? But yeah, if there's anything we're worried about, it's that monologue and confession of love he gave to Nancy. Do you know how many characters have done a similar thing in horror shows or movies and then survived? About 0. And if so far they haven't killed him because the audience tunes in for him, season 5 being the last season clears that path to his demise as well. He could also sacrifice himself for the kids. He's just like that. Okay, forget we said anything. It's nonsense. Nobody's dying. After Joe Keery's character, let's see what the real-life Eddie Munson is up to. First off, a movie in the works. From one scary franchise to another, Joseph Quinn's career is on the rise. Only recently, he was added to the cast of A Quiet Place, Day 1. The word on the street is that it's not signed on paper yet, but his IMDb says he's in the film set to be released in 2024. He's going to star in this spin-off of A Quiet Place alongside none other than Lupita Nyong'o. Next up, what could the plot be? There's a lot this spin-off can do with the plot, given that it's exploring the first day of the monster invasion. We'll probably see the reaction of people and political leaders around the world. Maybe they'll be skeptical about the danger and only try to do something about it when it's too late. Well, as long as Joseph Quinn is there, anything will work. Lastly, any chance of Stranger Things returning? Listen, your denial is understandable, but we'd suggest you let this one go. The chances of Eddie returning are very, very thin. At this point, if they bring him back, it will be the third character to come back from a very clear death, and that's no fun. We love our boy, but we think he deserves to rest in peace. That's a wrap for this video. Who do you think will bite the dust in Stranger Things Season 5? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.